Breaking news on a Tuesday morning, and it's not good for the Miami Dolphins. And it seems like Jalen Ramsey will not be playing football for the Miami Dolphins in 2025. Ian Rapoport had the report this morning saying that the Dolphins and Ramsey are mutually set to explore trade options, and it would not be a surprise if he played elsewhere in 2025. Not shutting the door on Ramsey not playing for the Dolphins this upcoming year, but pointing to all directions, saying he will be dealt somewhere. He also provides a financial note. We'll talk more about the financials here in just 1 second. This is Dolphins Today. I am Nic Rohloff, but my goodness, folks. We talked about that Slick Rick report a couple of days ago on the Dolphins allegedly trading an all-pro player. It was either Tyreek Hill or Jalen Ramsey. I said it would be dumb for it to be Jalen Ramsey, but it seems like Jalen does not want to be a part of the Dolphins organization much longer. What is your one-word reaction to the Jalen Ramsey trade news? Get down in the comment section and let me know. My one word, disaster. This just simply could not happen. Cornerback is arguably your top position of need with Jalen Ramsey on the roster. Defensive line and cornerback. Those are the two things you have to discuss because outside of Ramsey on this depth chart, it's a train wreck. Kader Kohou, Storm Duck, Cam Smith, Ethan Bonner, they aren't good enough to complement Ramsey, and now you might have to deal with him off of the roster. And here's another factor of this. How is Chris Grier still employed? The Dolphins are going to be heading into another rebuild. They are. Unfortunately, we have to face the facts. In the 3 years with Mike McDaniel, they made the playoffs twice, and they won 8-9 last season. But with the Ramsey debacle now, Tyreek Hill likely on the out soon, Teron Armstead retiring, Bradley Chubb not to where he once was because of his knee injury that forced him to miss all of last season. The Dolphins tried to swing big by trading for veterans. It did not work out. So how does Chris Grier still have a job? Because if the Dolphins are going towards a retool or a rebuild, you cannot trust Chris Grier to be the one making those decisions. Unfortunately, the path is clear to success in the NFL nowadays. You draft successfully, you develop these players, and then you keep them in your building. When you try to swing big for trades on veterans and you pay them, and then they leave you just 3 years later, that's not a winning formula. You have to hit on draft picks, and you have to keep them in your building. And even when Miami has done that, they haven't kept them in the building. I was an advocate for Javon Holland leaving. I was. But you saw it with Robert Hunt, Christian Wilkins. I know you didn't have the cap space to pay them, but that's because you swung big on these trades. Chris Grier has made mistake after mistake after mistake, and the fact that he's been the GM of this football team for 9 years is an absolute joke. It just absolutely is. They haven't won a playoff game in 24 years. It's unbelievable. But let's get into Ramsey more here because Spotrac did have a financial update on if a Ramsey trade goes through. The dead cap structure on the deal makes a trade before June 1st complicated, as the Dolphins would stand to take on $29.2 million, a $12.5 million cap loss. Remember, his cap hit projected this season is $16.6 million. If the trade is processed after June 1st, that $29.2 million hit would be split by $10.7 million in 2025 and $18.5 million in 2026, representing a $5.9 million cap saving for this 2025 season surrounding the Miami Dolphins. So here is the moral of the story and the summary of that note from Spotrac. A trade for draft capital in a week. So a trade happening between now and next Thursday's 2025 NFL Draft. It will be difficult for Miami to do that, and arguably not smart. I could understand if you want to use Jalen Ramsey to add capital in this draft class. But if you look at the broader picture from the financial standpoint of it, it is actually better often to trade him after the draft, have it processed after June 1st, and then just take back 2026 NFL draft capital. It's the same thing that we were talking about when it came to Tyreek Hill. The way these veteran contracts are set up, it is better off if the Dolphins wait a month or two to trade some of them. But it does sound like a Ramsey trade might actually came to fruition over the next week. But this is why you subscribe to the channel, because when Miami Dolphins trade news happens, or any news, we break it down here on the channel. On the road to 69,000 subscribers. We're trying to get there before the draft. Hit that sub button if you want to be up to date on all things Miami Dolphins. Another reason why it would not be smart for Miami to trade Jalen Ramsey, and I know if he wants to be traded, some people will just say, we'll take the pick in this year's draft potentially and try to find a replacement or help add to the trenches, which is such a big priority for the Dolphins as well. Well, the issue is, because of that cap number jumping up for this season if you trade him before June 1st, it would only leave you about $7 million in cap space if you traded him over the next week. That is barely enough to sign your 2025 NFL draft class. So that's an issue, because unless you plan on not signing another free agent for the entire offseason, you're basically making this Jalen Ramsey trade, signing your draft class, and you're done. And that will put you into a horrific spot entering this upcoming NFL season. I mean, it's clear to me that based off where this is going, if Tyreek Hill is on or off this roster by September when the Dolphins are lining up in the regular season, or if Jalen Ramsey's gone, this football team will not be good enough to make the postseason and is heading for a 6, 7, 8-win season once again. And with how this organization has had so many failures over the last 2+ decades, like, jobs have to be lost. It's the same reason why I said, even though it was going to be tough to sell other people around the league around firing Mike McDaniel, at least Chris Grier should have gone. But if you fired Grier, you probably had to clean house with McDaniel as well. So I feel like we are just prolonging the inevitable here, keeping them for this season when they both should have been gone 3 months ago. But looking at what the Dolphins have at corner, man, a Jalen Ramsey trade is just detrimental. It is. I mentioned it. We talked about how big of a need CB2 is. So if you want to update this depth chart, basically saying that Jalen Ramsey is no longer on the team because they will trade him, you need a CB1. You need a CB2. You have your nickel in Kader Kohu, but there's no world where I trust Storm Duck, Cam Smith, Ethan Bonner, or Artie Burns to be a legit boundary cornerback for this football team, which means you need to find 2 starters. Is it going to be in free agency or the draft? The Dolphins have absolutely no corners if they trade Jalen Ramsey. It is just a bad situation, man. It is. And it sucks for the fans out there that want to see competitive Dolphins football, because I just don't see this team making the playoffs based off how this offseason has gone. I wanted to be optimistic, and I thought I could be if they stuck with Ramsey. Like, I really thought if they hit that first pick in the 13th overall slot, it's a corner, and then you find defensive line and offensive line on day 2 of the NFL draft, hey, you hit on those picks, this team could fight for a playoff spot next year, maybe even get a win. But if Ramsey's not on the team, you really going to trust 2 unexperienced corners on the outside to win you football games in a tough AFC that has quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson? I just don't see a pathway for success here in the AFC. I just really, really don't. All right, we're going to look more into this here in just a second. But we are sponsored by Mando, the whole body deodorant that I trust to make sure I'm smelling right. And with the weather warming up, I'm most looking forward to going golfing with the homies, playing some basketball, as I always do. And I'm looking forward to it even more because I've started using Mando whole body deodorant, because unlike some other brands I've tried, it can handle anything. Clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle odor was a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average grundle odor is a 0 out of 10. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, plus free shipping. I have one of the products in studio with me because I go nowhere without it. That is the deodorant wipes. I am someone always on the go, whether it's here at work at Chat Sports or out running errands, playing golf, playing basketball, or meeting friends at a bar. And if I ever feel like I need to get freshed up a little bit, yeah, deodorant wipes are perfect for that. So as a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code CHAT. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code CHAT at shopmando.com, SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. All right, I want to segue this show from reacting to how much of a disaster this is to be looking ahead to what Miami could ultimately get in return for Jalen Ramsey and where he might end up landing in a trade. Well, I think it's important to look back at what the Dolphins got Jalen Ramsey for in 2022 when they received him from the Los Angeles Rams. They sent a third-round pick, and they sent tight end Hunter Long for the services of Jalen Ramsey. That was 3 years ago. So now we're talking a 30-year-old Jalen Ramsey. So what is his value looking like? Well, even though Ramsey has proven he is still one of the top corners and defensive backs in the NFL over the past couple of seasons with Miami, his value is obviously going to be slightly diminished just due to his age, right? He's no longer 27, 28. He's 30 years old. And talking with some people here at Chat Sports and just mixing in my own opinions, I believe Jalen Ramsey at best would go for a third-round pick once again. But it will likely be a early day 3 pick, whether it's a 4th or 5th round selection. I also think it would be intriguing to see if this trade gets done in this year's draft or next year's draft, which one Miami would prioritize rather than getting. Because Ramsey could still play. It's not an issue of that. He was actually Pro Football Focus's 10th ranked cornerback last season for the Miami Dolphins. And his numbers surely aren't on the level that you would think of for Jalen Ramsey. And his 2023 season was much better for Miami. But he still was solid. He wasn't bad. And he's so versatile on this Dolphins defense. He was sent on so many corner blitzes, and he was able to get home. He was solid in the run game as well, played all 17 games. So even though he was slightly down in terms of his coverage grades, he still is someone that will be sought after by teams around the NFL looking to add to their cornerback room because of how cheap the trade cost, I think, will ultimately be, whether it's a late day 3 pick or it should be early day 3 pick or a late day 2 pick. But I'm going to look at 5 teams I think could ultimately trade for Jalen Ramsey here in just a second. But I want to know your prediction. Crystal ball time. Where does Jalen Ramsey get traded? Drop that team that you think Ramsey ultimately goes to down in the comment section. I've got 5 destinations that I could see come to fruition, 4 of them being in the NFC, 1 of them being in the AFC. The one AFC team is the Chargers. They need a little bit more cornerback help, I think, after not re-signing Asante Samuel Jr., so maybe they go in on Ramsey, maybe they don't. But the Vikings need cornerback help. Sounds like they're interested in Asante Samuel Jr. after the draft. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But I think San Francisco and Dallas are 2 options. Those are the 2 teams rumored to be looking at corners in the draft of the first round, whether it's Jahdae Barron or Will Johnson. Those 2 teams pick 11 and 12 right in front of Miami. So maybe they just address cornerback by sending a mid-round pick to the Dolphins for the veteran. I also think the Eagles, because the Eagles lost a veteran corner this offseason in Darius Slay. Yes, they still have some young guys in Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and stuff like that. But you always know Howie Roseman's looking to make a potential splash deal for a veteran, especially if it's not going to cost them a lot. So I think Philadelphia could be an option, the defending Super Bowl champs. But even though I said I think it's going to be a pick in next year's draft, and it's more likely that Miami does that, I think this could be an interesting trade on draft night for the Dolphins. What if Miami jumps up and leapfrogs the San Francisco 49ers in the first round of the NFL draft? They move up from 13 to 11. And that should say a 4th round pick, not a 3rd round pick, but it's 138th overall. So you jump 2 spots in the draft. also take back a fourth-round pick, and then that's what the 49ers get in return. So you'd be able to leapfrog Dallas in case you think they want one of the corners. You take either Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron at 11, but also recoup a fourth-round pick as well. I think that is something that could be interesting for the Dolphins, but yet then you have that cap situation where you don't have much cap space to do anything else other than signing your draft class. And we're going to be talking a lot about corners over the next week until the Thursday first round of the NFL draft. This is my big board at the position, my top 10. I've had Will Johnson as the number one pick for the Dolphins at 13 for quite a while now. And with Ramsey potentially being off the roster, well, it's going to continue to be that way. Jahdae Barron's my second guy. Maxwell Harrison's my third. I think Trey Amos from Ole Miss, a fringe first-round pick, is my fourth guy. And then you get into that range of second-round corners: Benjamin Morrison, Siobhan Revel, Darian Porter, Dorian Strong, Azare Thomas, and then the day 3 picks come into play here with Kobe Bryant at number 10, the corner from Kansas. The truth is, I am starting to wonder if the Dolphins double up at the position. Could they draft one in the first round, but also draft one in the second or third round? Or do they plan on drafting one in the first couple rounds and then signing a Stephon Gilmore, a Rasul Douglas, an Asante Samuel Jr.? There's 3 or 4 corners out there that intrigue me in the free agency market, but I still think it would probably be better served if you tried to draft 2 in the top 100, 130 picks to try to develop these guys and see if you can hit and have a cornerback duo of the future that is on your team right now on a cheaper contract. Do wonder if the Dolphins do that. All right, that will end our video here today reacting to Jalen Ramsey news. We'll be live later today on Tuesday afternoon, so make sure you subscribe. Make sure you join us for that live show. We'll be talking more about the NFL draft and more about Jalen Ramsey, so hit that sub button and join us.